Hey, good morning, folks. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now. I'm Myra Ansari. Hope your Monday is going great so far. If you've been following us here on Wave Now, you may have noticed over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking to folks from Norton's Neuroscience Institute about various brain issues. And it's because their Neuro Expo is coming up. And this is a great way for folks in the community to get free information from the experts about all things that have to do with our brain and what we can do to improve brain health, know things about migraines and Alzheimer's. And today we're talking about stroke and life after stroke. So Rosa Hart is a nurse navigator for Norton Neuroscience Institute. Rosa, thank you so much for being here. Tell us about just the basics. Let's start from the beginning. What is a stroke? What happens to our body when we have a stroke?
So a stroke is typically caused by a blockage of blood flow, probably due to a clot. There are some other causes, and that's about 90% of strokes are caused by a lack of blood flow. There are also what's called a hemorrhagic stroke, which is a brain bleed. And those are less frequent, but you may have someone say they had a stroke and they had bleeding in their brain, or they had a clot in their brain, and both can be true.
What causes a stroke?
So the number one thing that we can do to prevent stroke is to control high blood pressure, and that goes for those caused by clots as well as bleeds. And so I want to lead with that because there are a lot of other potential causes. That some are genetic and some are like smoking and lifestyle things, being overweight or having high blood sugar can cause you to be more at risk for stroke. So being diabetic actually doubles your risk for stroke, whether you have any other causes that might contribute to it. So, but the one thing you can do to prevent stroke most powerfully is control high blood pressure. So it helps to know what yours is on a regular basis and make sure it gets into the safe zone.
Here's an alarming statistic that you all shared with me. Every 40 seconds, someone in the U.S. has a stroke. So knowing the signs and symptoms is critical. And there's a pretty easy a shortcut to kind of remember the signs and symptoms so we can all respond appropriately.
Yes, and everyone needs to know. We use B FAST to remember that B is for balance, so a sudden change in balance. E is for eyes, a sudden change in vision. It could be blurred vision, it could be double vision, or it could be a loss of peripheral vision. Just any sudden vision change could be a sign of a stroke. F is for face. Some people get a facial droop on one side, and that's probably most commonly recognized as a stroke symptom. A is for arms, where one arm is weaker than the other, and a sudden onset of one-sided weakness is a pretty clear sign of a big stroke.
Okay, so it's those. Sorry, go ahead.
S is for speech, like slurred speech. Some people think someone sounds drunk if they are having slurred speech like in a stroke. So it's important to differentiate, are they really, or is this possibly a stroke? And then T is for time, where time saved is brain saved. So if anyone is having new signs like this, you call 911 and get care immediately.
Why is time so critical, Rosa?
So every minute we have so many brain cells die if someone is actually having a stroke. And while there is hope for recovery, it's a lot harder to recover if those brain cells have died. We do have interventions that can reverse a stroke. If it's being caused by a clot, they may be able to get a clot-busting IV medication at one of the local hospitals if they get there within the first couple hours after a stroke. But once it's past around the 4-hour mark, they're no longer eligible for that treatment. There's also a neurosurgical intervention called a mechanical thrombectomy that neurosurgeons can do, where they pull a clot out of the brain, but that has a time limit as well. And so really that time frame for intervention and reversal of the stroke symptoms is crucial.
So stroke is the number one leading cause of disability in the world. So sometimes if you've had a stroke, are the impacts of it forever?
So your new normal will probably not be like your old normal. There is a lot of hope for restoration. We've learned a lot about neuroplasticity and through rehabilitation strategies with physical, occupational, speech therapy, cognitive therapy, vision therapy. There's so much we can do. And so it's not like it used to be thought of, where once you have a stroke, however you are afterwards, you're stuck with. But it is definitely life changing, and those effects affect not just the person who had the stroke, but their whole community, their family. Maybe they were the caregiver, maybe they were the mom or the grandma who took care of everybody, and now everyone has to band together to take care of them. And so it reaches beyond just an individual.
Sure. We have some viewer engagement, so I just want to share this comment. Somebody posted, Joey Hughes says, it's so true because you never know. You better get it checked out. That's so true, Joey. So thank you for sharing that. And if you have a question or a comment for Rosa, please share it here on the stream. If it's a question, I'll definitely try to get it answered while we're on air with her right now. So explain to me the stroke belt and how that affects Kentucky.
So Kentucky is part of what's called the stroke belt. More people may be aware of what's called the Bible Belt, which is the strip of southeastern states where I guess churches are more prevalent, and also strokes are more prevalent in those same areas. Maybe it's because we have fried chicken at church or we sit too much. But actually, even though we're a part of the stroke belt overall, you're more likely to have a stroke in Kentucky than any of the surrounding states, even those further south than us. And part of that may be because of the rural areas that we have in our state. Most of Kentucky is rural, and so they have limited food access. They have limited access to health care for those preventive measures. And when I think rural, I think of farms, but not everybody who lives in a rural area is growing their own food. And so that's not really an indicator of health, actually.
So a lot of it is like diet, exercise, lifestyle. All of that can contribute to, and we preach this all the time. You hear about it, but really those things have a ripple effect in our overall health, for sure.
Definitely. And I think a lot of the times there can be a stigma around stroke because people might feel blamed for having their own stroke. But the truth is, we have a lot of limited access to healthy food. Healthy food is expensive. And these lifestyle changes that are required are pretty countercultural, not just in the South, but there's a lot of marketing of things that would make us unhealthy. So it's a struggle to really get to a healthy weight and to eat things that are good for you. And life is stressful, and stress alone is its own risk factor for stroke.
Absolutely. So the Norton Neuroscience Institute does such amazing work, and the stroke team does as well. So what sets your all stroke team apart from others in the area?
So we'd love to collaborate with everyone who provides stroke care. There is more than enough stroke to go around, let me tell you. But what I have really loved about our stroke team is that we really try to address things from start to finish and beyond. We try to do a lot of education out in the community about stroke prevention and recognizing the signs of stroke and when to call 911. But we also do education with the emergency medical service teams on helping them understand the signs of stroke and which level of care hospital to go to. Like Norton Healthcare has 8 adult hospitals now, and we have 1 comprehensive stroke center. So recognizing this patient might be more eligible for that neurosurgical procedure and might need to go to Norton Brownsboro for that treatment. So getting there as fast as possible versus one of our other hospitals is an important key for them to know. And that's why you call 911 and don't just drive yourself to the nearest hospital, because they don't all provide the same treatments. So Also, once they are treated wonderfully in the hospital in an ideal scenario and they go home at the Norton Neuroscience Institute, we have follow-up with our neurology providers as well as the resource center where I work. We have social workers as well as classes and support groups to help people have their best life after stroke, reduce barriers that would keep them from being able to make those modifications to their life. We have dietitian counseling. We have just so much that we offer at no cost to our patients as a benefit from the Norton Healthcare Foundation. So I'm so thankful to be able to offer that. And we also make the Stronger After Stroke podcast, which answers frequently asked questions. So a lot of the time, people leave the hospital, they've learned way too much information too fast, and they can't remember it all at once, or they have questions for their doctor and they have to wait for an appointment. So I've been able to interview our experts about answers to these frequently asked questions so they don't have to wait for that appointment for some of them. And also I've been able to interview stroke survivors and caregivers about what was most helpful for them to have their best life after stroke. The Stronger After Stroke podcast is now heard in over 86 countries, and it is prescribed at discharge by hospitals all over the world as a education and encouragement resource for life after stroke. And so I'm so thankful that the Norton Neuroscience Institute supports that and puts it out there as a resource for the world, not just our patients who are able to come to Norton in person.
Absolutely, because I follow you all on social media and I've seen the podcast, heard the podcast. You guys do great work on that. And it's so easy for folks to kind of get that on the go information that they need. And, sometimes we have questions, but we don't know where to go. Or, you think about, all the different topics that you all are able to discuss. And I think that's great that you all are able to do that. Putting any information out there easily accessible to folks is so important. So you all, and all talking about all that, you mentioned some things, life after stroke. Rehab is really critical too.
It is. So we mentioned neuroplasticity earlier, and the thing is, with neuroplasticity, you have to tell the nerves what they need to do so they can relearn it, or so the remaining nerves that didn't die can learn the job that was being done by the ones that were hurt. And our rehab specialists are especially trained in how to do that. So we have 3 locations at downtown, at Norton Women's and Children's Hospital on Dutchman's Lane, and at Brownsboro at the Cressman Rehab Center, where they are neuro-specialized PT, OT, and speech therapists who understand how to really trigger that neuroplasticity to make those new connections for stroke patients, because it is different than in other neurological processes. Stroke is not a chronic degenerative neuro disease, and it's an injury, but it's a nerve injury. It's not like a broken bone, and so having that specialized insight into what strategies and techniques will have the best impact in long-term recovery is really key to optimizing.
So we were talking a little bit about treatments and procedures and what you all offer. What is the very latest in kind of helping people get back on to their new normal or their new life or life after stroke?
As far as treatments, well, we do a lot of cognitive therapy with speech therapy. Also, pelvic floor therapy is something not a lot of people know about, that physical therapists who are specialized in that are able to do. A lot of people struggle with incontinence and sexual dysfunction after stroke. They may not know who to talk to about that, and it is a pelvic floor physical therapist. That is who you should talk to about that. You can get a referral from primary care.
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there for a second, interrupt you, because I've spoken to a pelvic floor therapist in one of my podcast episodes, and it is remarkable about the work that they do. And how, that issue affects so many people. And it's interesting to me that stroke can have an impact on that as well. And if you're having that issue, go get pelvic floor therapy.
Yes, definitely. It is not something, a lot of people who have these dysfunctions after a stroke might brush it off as, oh, it's just part of aging and I've got to deal with it now.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to deal with it, right?
And it's embarrassing, right? Like, it is just like,
Yeah.
it's not being able to have control over your body is like one of the hardest things, I think.
And you might say, and it's not sexy, but
Yeah.
if it helps with your sexual function, maybe it is.
Maybe it is. Okay. I'm so glad you said that. So I cut you off, but you were saying other types of therapy as well. But I just got excited when you mentioned that because I think that's amazing.
Well, and I think vision rehab is also really important and overlooked. Over half of people who have strokes have visual deficits that they may not have picked up on because they also have something called agnosia, which means they don't know. The person who had the stroke doesn't recognize their lack of being able to see. So on the one hand, they may need a visual exam just to see where they're really at. But there is visual rehab, which can help with balance and can help with that cognitive therapy. So it really is, the whole body is connected. And
Yeah.
so we want to make sure we have all the pieces to put together.
Okay. So there's some minimally invasive procedures too that can remove blood clots. Tell me about that and what TNK is.
Oh, okay. So when we were talking about the emergent intervention, TNK is the IV blood clot buster medication that you would get if you get there within the window, and they do the risk benefit analysis, and the neurologist recommends, we think that we can break up this clot with this medication. It's also called tenecteplase is the generic name. People may be more familiar with TPA or Alteplase, which was on the market first, but now TNK is what we are using, and it goes in faster, hopefully with less complications because it's easier to administer. And then the mechanical thrombectomy is where the neurosurgeon will, they may go through the wrist or they may go through the femoral artery up into the brain and pull the clot out mechanically.
Wow. Is that fairly new?
No.
It's been around.
Well, they started our comprehensive stroke program at Norton Brownsboro with it.
Okay.
So I can't remember exactly what year that is. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
There for it. But TNK, we started using that last year. So that is relatively new for us to be using TNK, the drug specifically. So 1995 is when Alteplase was trialed as a clot busting medication in humans. So like the year ER came out, the television show.
Yeah.
That's how long that's been available.
Okay.
But still not enough people know about it.
Sure. I didn't know about it, so I'm glad you mentioned it. Yeah. Okay. So the Norton Neuroscience Expo is coming up soon, and we've been talking about that, wanting to let folks know because this is becoming a growing event for you all. But this is a great way for people to hear from folks that have, life after stroke, what life is like for them. A panel of stroke survivors are going to be there. Also, just experts. What do you want folks to know about the Neuro Expo?
So we're doing something different with the stroke track of the Neuro Expo. Most other tracks, including like multiple sclerosis and cognitive memory and dementia and migraine, are going to be a lot of like physicians or nurse practitioners teaching. And the Life After Stroke track is going to be panels of people who are speaking either from their lived experience or because they offer support for life after stroke. So we will have Dr. Christine Cosby Gaither, Flannery O'Neill, David Todd, Russell Deakins, and Effie Whitfill sharing their stories of when they had their stroke and their advice to other people about being a stroke survivor. We will also have Dorothy Henning teaching a session on Feldenkrais, which is the self-directed neuroplasticity recovery. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that. We'll have a physical and occupational therapist teaching about prevention, and they actually lead our monthly stroke support group. That's Jeanette Lenore and Mallory Walter. They are a dynamic duo. And then we'll have a panel of these resource providers. We've got someone from Vocational Rehab, which is a state program that more people need to know it exists, that will help people get back in the workforce so they don't have to be on disability after a stroke. We will have a disability specialist. We'll have someone from the TBI Trust Fund, someone from KIPTA, and our social worker that you can speak with here at the Resource Center, available to answer questions and let you know when you can reach out for that support, whether it's financial or for other resources. And then we'll have a caregiver panel with Tiffany Cardwell, Langston Gaither, and Michelle Sanchez and Caitlin Deakins, talking about what happened internally when their loved one had a stroke and they had to then kind of become a caregiver. And sometimes that's a big role reversal. If it's your spouse or if it's your parent and you're the child, and now you're the one taking care of them. And so that's a big emotional process. So I'm really thankful they're willing to open up about that.
All right. And the Neuro Expo is happening when, and how can folks, do they need to sign up? Do they just show up? Give us the details about that.
Yes, we do need to sign up because breakfast and lunch is provided, and we need to know to have your breakfast and lunch there for you. So it is October 11th. That's a Saturday at the Louisville Marriott East off Hurstbourne. And you can sign up at nortonneuroexpo.com.
Okay, and for folks who are joining us, I put a link to Norton Neuroscience Institute here on the stream. You can also go to their Facebook page. You can find all of the information there. Rosa, this has been great information. Is there anything that I'm not asking you that you want folks to know about?
Well, definitely be fast. Everybody needs to know it. Anybody can have a stroke at any age, so knowing the signs can make you a hero.
All right, Rosa, thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for your time today. Again, the Norton Neuroscience Expo is coming up on October 11th. Register for it. This is a great way for you to get free information from the experts, and it covers a variety of things, whether you're dealing with migraine headaches, whether you have a loved one who is going through Alzheimer's, stroke. There are a number of topics that are going to be discussed, and all of this is for free. So this is a great way for you to get all of that information from our folks here locally. Rosa, thank you so much for all that you do. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Myra.
All right, you take care. I'm Myra Ansari, and I'll see you on Wave News at 3.